The next step is going to be cleaning the blade and getting it ready for the cement. To do that, I have purple goop, which is just the industrial degreaser. It's good for getting all the fingerprints and smudges and water, oil, just from anything around the shop. And then we get the degreaser off with alcohol. Denatured alcohol, the good stuff. So I wear gloves, not to keep my hands clean, but to keep the things around my hands clean. At this point, we want to get all the oil off so there's nothing that's going to inhibit the cement from sticking to the steel. Kind of the only process here where I actually get really anal about cleaning things. The only other time is gluing. You gotta make sure that the oils from your hands are not on things that need to stick to the steel, because glue and steel, glue and hell, any kind of metal is not always the best idea. So to get it to work, we gotta make sure it's really, really, really clean. So we're gonna just wipe it off real good, let it dry, and then I'm gonna wipe it off again with a dry towel and let it dry for a good little bit, and then we'll come back and do the clay. We are ready to apply our clay to our 1095 carbon steel blade, and the reason we want to put clay on the knife is so that the spine where we paint the clay on is going to remain nice and soft and tough. What's going to happen is when we get this up to its full critical temperature, which is around 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, the crystal structure in here is going to loosen up. And depending on how it cools down, fast or slow, will depend on what type of crystalline structure forms in the end of the quench. If you want to know more about the metallurgy aspects of heat treating, go look it up. It's super dense. It's very good information to know. I'm probably going to cover something about it later. As of right now, all you gotta need to know is if it cools down fast, it gets hard. If it cools down slow, it gets tough. All right? So, initially, I've had a lot of problems trying to get the clay onto the knife and have it stay on there. The act of heat treating a blade is very stressful on the knife. We've gone over the thick edge, keeping everything nice and chunky where it needs to be, because when this goes into the fire or into the forge and heats up, it's going to actually expand a fair amount, because there's a thing called thermal expansion. It's physics, and anything stuck on here like this clay, which is hard and it's going to turn into cement, that could shatter off. So we need to make sure that it's got a really good bond to the steel so it can be flexible enough and tough to stay on here and deal with the shock of actually quenching the blade and going from 1500 to less than 600 in 1.5 seconds or less. So to do that, I was digging around on YouTube after I had a couple failures. I'm not sure what went wrong. I was getting great results with regular gray furnace cement from Home Depot. I don't know the brand, but the gray stuff, it has rocks in it. It's more like cement. I feel like that was giving me some barriers, which was breaking the cement off and therefore ruining my chance of getting a good hamon or a good differential heat treatment. Brownells anti-scale coating. This was kind of expensive and I don't really use it, to be honest with you. I didn't think that it was necessary. I like just the Rutland's black furnace cement. 2000 degrees. You can find this at smaller hardware stores. I think I had to go out of my way to find an Ace to get this. Also Amazon. So I know this looks like a brand new full container, but I've actually used enough of this that I don't need to scoop some out anymore. When you get it, it's very, very thick. That's whatever little bit of water is left on top there. I like to thin it down, get a good consistency for what works for you. I think pudding is a real good consistency for this. Just kind of something light with a paintbrush. This is where Bob Ross needs to be channeled to make happy little waves. I like to start kind of hitting the spine first and put it on relatively thick, because we can just kind of smush it around. Don't bring it too close to the edge. we're going to do our initial fat layer of where I absolutely do not want the blade to harden. I also like to bring it back and make sure the spine's painted, because if you're doing oil, we're going to do this one in water, but if you're doing oil, you can get some pretty gnarly flare-ups during your quench where the blade is touching the oil. So actually go back here and fill all these little gaps and make sure everything's filled in. The blade is remarkably clean as well. That is super important. So this is going to be actual blade area down here still, so I'm not going to go all the way down there. But we will start to just kind of draw in some aesthetic little waves and peaks and whatnot. You don't want to put it on too thick because, like I said, thermal expansion will just cause it to crack off. If you get it thin, it seems to be flexible enough to be able to withstand it. If you get it too thin, then it won't work. Okay. Now, I would normally do this up and down so I could let gravity kind of pull and do its work, but for the ease of filming it, we did it like this, so I'm going to have to very carefully flip around. Maybe my neighbor. Alright, and also do this side. I like to get a full coat. In my mind, it somehow will keep all the liquid out, all the quenchant, if it's got a nice solid coat around the entire spine, around the edges, on the tops and the bottoms. One big thing you got to look out for when we heat treat is vapor pockets. And that is basically overexcited molecules that form gas barriers. You'll see it boil in the water or the oil when it goes in, and if you have gas trapped there, it'll actually insulate it. One of the best insulations for anything is trapped gas. That's why you have double pane windows and vacuum insulated thermoses. My theory is also that the gas pockets will get inside the cracks of the clay and break it off. So if we can get a nice thick barrier in here, the better off we're going to be.